This is our seminar that we will talk about why we chose OSCQR, why it's important, and how OSCQR is used. And we're very fortunate today to have with us Robert Piorkowski. Robert is the Assistant Director of Online Teaching for SUNY Online, State University of New York. And he brings to this position a meaningful understanding of campus culture, online faculty development, instructional design, and online teaching. He's the principal designer of SUNY's Open Instruction Designer Certificate Program that was adopted by the Online Learning Consortium in 2016, and he drew input from SUNY's instructional design community during the design. Currently, he focuses on implementation of online teaching support, services, and resources for remote and online faculty and campus instructional designers, and the continuous improvement online course quality via OSCQR. Robert was the instructor for Cayuga Community College, where he taught French online for 14 years. So, Robert, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for the applause there, Tim. And thank you all for coming today. I'm really happy to present to you on OSCQR. I've done it quite a few times. OSCQR has been around since basically about 2015, and
Ann Martini.
I do have
Join the meeting.
I do have a slideshow. It's not long. I don't have lots and lots of slides, just a few. But just to give a little bit of context to the workshop, we came up with the name "Why Use OSCQR" relatively quickly, and so I have a few slides, going to get into it, and then mostly what I'm going to share with you is a lot of the resources and some of the any questions that you might have about OSCQR. So I'm just going to I'll demonstrate. I'll show you a few slides. Give you an overview of the rubric, give you a little bit of a tour of the rubric, because I know there are some in the room brand new to the rubric. But as you can see from the slide, just a little bit of bio for me. I was actually an online instructor for 16 years. I guess what I wrote down in my blurb was 14, but also a K-12 classroom teacher. Like to keep that in focus with a lot of my instructors, because I really have a reverence for teaching as a craft, and I'm really proud of being the principal designer of the OSCQR rubric, and I'll get into that in a little bit in terms of how it came about. But that's who I am, and been an instructional designer. I like to say, since the previous century. I actually started in 1999, and in the days of dial-up, and basically very fortunate to be at this juncture in education where we're trying. Our initial efforts were always about making the online classroom as intimate and as impactful as face-to-face instruction. And we've come a long way in our research and what we know about online learners. So, again, we sort of came to the title of this webinar relatively quickly, in terms of just why use it. So I know that is a burning question, because it takes a little bit of effort to improve your courses, and I shouldn't say a little bit of effort. It's what we like to call a continuous effort or continuous improvement. And so, I just wanted to sort of get cut to the chase, if you will, about why we created OSCQR at SUNY Central. We are a public institution, and So I'm not a vendor. Oscar is free, and that was one of the first things we wanted to create, something that was free and openly shareable. So we used the Google platform initially, and still do, because we right away we did not we certainly didn't have the resources to build our own platform. SUNY again is a public institution, so our resources are finite, if you will. But cut to the chase, why use the Oscar rubric? So it's a rubric for improving course quality, and it's free and open. It does not evaluate your course. So having the experience we have with the diversity of courses and institutions at SUNY, there are 64 institutions, and we wanted to develop an instrument that every institution could use. So as we cross disciplines and cross campuses and cross different levels of instruction, if you will, graduate, undergraduate, community college, four-year colleges, we needed an instrument that was quite pliable for all different types of classrooms. And that was one of the obstacles we came up against in using a commercial rubric out there. So I won't mention the name. Um, and so in any case, right away we learned that faculty and do not like to be evaluated, and that one size does not fit all for instruction. And so what we tried to do was create an instrument that is derived from some of the best frameworks and best practices that we've come across in our 20 years of helping faculty create online courses. And what you'll hear me use the phrase quite often, continuous improvement. And it really is sort of a mindset to get ourselves in, a very collegial mindset in terms of when we look at our content, we see something, we have our experience with teaching with our content, but what the rubric was initially designed for, and it's not the sole use of the rubric, but what it is designed for is collaborative peer review. And so essentially putting a fresh set of eyes on what we put in front of students, and getting as we'll probably get into a little bit later, with all types of course reviews, a lot of it depends on perspective. And sometimes as instructors, we put our best foot forward in creating content for students, creating relevant tasks for students, and relevant feedback as well. And in that teaching process, sometimes it becomes difficult to look at ourselves, or maybe to use a cliche, to see the forest through the trees. And I've conducted many workshops with faculty in actually implementing the rubric and trying it out. And when we look at specific examples, so in other words, I'll take like a model of an activity, the instructions for the activity, and in a room full of 10 faculty, I'll get 10 different perspectives on how something can be improved. And it is, one thing that when we talk about improvement of course design, it's hard to steer ourselves away from being critical, because we are sort of using a critical lens. And when you're on the receiving end of that critical lens, things can be a little uncomfortable. And so what we've tried to do is design an instrument that focuses on improvement. There's no place on the rubric really to expound upon what's wrong with a course or what's wrong vis-a-vis a particular standard. Really what the rubric does is gets us to zero in on what an improvement would look like. And so I hope that, as we go through some of the content of this presentation, and more importantly, when you have questions, I just hope that, we can sort of embrace this spirit of continuous improvement. Again, it's much like the writing process. You can, when we write, we read, and then we rewrite. And then hopefully, sometimes there's stuff we want to keep that has impact, and then there is stuff that we want to improve upon. And so I think all of us in the room have, experienced that very common feeling with instruction, that when we teach, we, again, we put our best foot forward, we prepare lessons, we prepare lectures, we prepare materials. But hopefully, some of us reflect upon, what could be improved. And I think that's part of teaching, and Oscar is, sort of, again, just a single lens, a single instrument to help us continuously improve upon what we already have. Again, this slide that we're looking at here, Oscar was put forth as an instrument for course review. And it is designed as part of a process whereby we look at our content, we make some improvements, we teach the course with those improvements, we see how it goes, and then we take another look. So it supports a continuous effort of constant looking at our courses and improving upon what we already have. Now, again, since I know that, there are some in the room that have not, really been exposed to Oscar, I have this short video that we created that I'd like to play for everyone. And it gives an overview of Oscar, a pretty quick overview. It's a 5.5-minute video. So if you'll just stick with me, it basically, kind of like covers Oscar A to Z in somewhat quick fashion. So right after that, we'll dig in. I hope you'll have some questions for me. And so let's just check out this demo video that we created here.
SUNY Online has developed an online course design rubric and process that addresses both the instructional design and accessibility of an online course that is openly licensed for anyone to use and adapt. The aim of the SUNY Online Course Quality Review, or OSCQR, rubric and process is to support continuous improvements to the quality and accessibility of online courses, while also providing a systematic approach to collect data across campuses, institutions, departments, and programs. This data can be used to inform faculty development and support large-scale online course design, review, and refresh efforts consistently. There are two components, the OSCQR process and the OSCQR rubric. The OSCQR process provides a framework and a dashboard to support a campus-tailored and scalable approach to improving the instructional design and accessibility of online or blended courses. There are 3 parts to the process. The online course review, using the OSCQR rubric, yields an action plan that informs the online course refresh process by targeting areas for improvements. After the identified areas have been refreshed and implemented, the learning review closes the continuous improvement loop to confirm the success of the changes made and the development of a plan for the next set of improvements. The dashboard is housed in Google Drive, which allows for free storage and collaboration. It automates campus-level review efforts and accommodates customized rubrics by managing all the rubrics for the institution. Built-in analytics track course review progress and can be used to identify online course design trends. Working with multi-institutional teams of SUNY Online instructional designers, librarians, distance learning directors, technologists, and accessibility experts, SUNY Online staff started with 20 years of SUNY Learning Network research-informed best online practices, the Chico rubric, Universal Learning Design Principles, the SUNY Office of General Counsel's Memorandum on Accessibility Considerations, and conducted a gap analysis with Quality Matters, iNicole, and Blackboard exemplary courses. The resulting 50 standards in the rubric target online instructional design and incorporate the community of inquiry model, the 7 principles of good practice in undergraduate education, the adult learner, Bloom's taxonomy, how people learn, and has been mapped to the SUNY Online fundamental and core competencies for online course design. OSCQR is the first online course quality rubric that specifically addresses the U.S. Department of Education regulation requirements for regular and substantive interaction, RSI, in the design of online courses. OSCQR can be leveraged by faculty, instructional designers, departments, and institutions to assist in planning, designing, improving, documenting, and implementing online courses and programs that are in compliance with RSI regulations. OSCQR standards guide online course design and refresh efforts, as well as faculty development activities to support RSI compliance in new online course development and review of existing online courses. OSCQR standards can be used by online faculty and instructional designers in faculty self-assessments, faculty training activities, resource materials, course reviews, as recommendations and standards to support and document how the online course meets the RSI requirements. The rubric is easy to use, flexible, non-evaluative, requires no storage space, can be customized, and can be implemented in a variety of ways. As part of an online faculty development and online course design professional development process, as an online faculty self-assessment, as part of an online course quality review process by online instructional designers, as a faculty peer review process, in a multidisciplinary collaborative team review model. The rubric also produces an action plan, allows for prioritization of standards, estimates amount of time to make improvements, offers suggestions and examples for improvements, accommodates modification and addition of standards. The 50 OSCQR rubric standards also integrate specific ways to make an online course accessible to students with disabilities and specific suggestions for ensuring regular and substantive interaction in online course design. OSCQR was adopted by the Online Learning Consortium in 2016 and is featured as the online course quality rubric in their suite of online quality scorecards. The SUNY Online OSCQR rubric is flexible, customizable, research-based, openly licensed for anyone to use and adapt, and nationally recognized. It is currently being used by 56 SUNY institutions and thousands of non-SUNY institutions and individuals. For more information on SUNY Online and OSCQR, visit oscqr.suny.edu.
Okay, let's just see if I can get away from this now. Yeah, I can. Okay. I should ask at this point, do you have any questions, about, OSCQR in general? I know that at CCRI, you've been you've been focusing on 13 standards, and I think that's great. Again, we created this instrument, but knowing the diversity of our SUNY campuses, we really left it to the campuses to implement on their own. I work for SUNY Central Administration, and and the campuses are very autonomous in the SUNY system. So they each have their own identity and really have their own approach to improving, in using the OSCQR rubric. So, are there any questions? I want you to feel free to hit your microphone button and ask any questions as we go through go through the rubric. As I go through this PowerPoint, I really don't have many more slides for us to look at. We're going to dig into the rubric itself, and I want to show you how it works. Along the way, I'll explain some of the rationale behind, what we created and why we created it that way. One thing popped out for me with the little video presentation for me, and it was that word consistency. And I don't want to give the impression that we or Oscar promotes the idea that all courses should look the same. What we know in instructional design and what we know about adult learners is that adult learners benefit considerably from consistency. It doesn't mean we have to be slaves to consistency. It just means that there are certain elements in online courses, navigational cues, some of the icons that we may use, that when those things, some of those elements are consistent across courses, that adult learners have an easier time navigating their online courses. Let's just remember that for adult learners, it can be quite an isolating experience to take an online course. So our best practices sort of inform us that the more comfortable we can make our learners, not only with navigational cues and those kinds of things, but in terms of creating a social experience for them in an online course. As soon as we establish that kind of trust with our learners, they have a much easier time. Tim, you raised your hand?
Yeah, how you doing? How you doing this today?
All right, nice to see you,
Good,
Tim.
good. Yeah, you too. And I do have a couple other questions, more general, maybe I'll save them for later. But with what you're talking about right now, have you found a particular LMS platform that is most compatible with Oscar, or that works best? For example, I noticed for me, I find Blackboard is a lot of scrolling, a lot of navigating that seems difficult, really, from both ends. Have you found a particular LMS platform that is the easiest and the most seamless?
So, I mean, a lot of us don't have a choice with platforms, right? But currently, it just so happens that we are at SUNY, we are migrating to a platform called Brightspace. It is a product of a company called Desire to Learn. And we are very happily surprised, not so surprised, but as we dig into the learning management system, we find it a lot more open than Blackboard in terms of just being navigated by a screen reader. When I talk about the accessibility standards, Brightspace is a lot more friendly to accessibility requirements than Blackboard is. Some of the features in Blackboard can be very difficult to navigate for screen readers. For instance, the breaking up of the panes, having the main pane, having the left-hand side broken up like the way it is in Blackboard can be problematic for anyone using a screen reader. So from an accessibility perspective, we find that difficult. When we used Blackboard in SUNY, we were not able to customize any of the icons. I don't know if you guys can. So that kind of, we felt a little bit constricted as designers because faculty with their previous course learning management system, they were able to do that. I don't, OSCQR is LMS neutral. And when you dig into some of the standards, you can see that it really has very little to anything that is LMS specific to it. But I will say that we are enjoying the openness and accessibility of Brightspace quite a bit. But other than that, any other input? Any input on that question? There's probably lots of experience in the room. I know that you use a lot of open educational content, what we call OER, open educational resources. And so there's always that layer to sort of contend with. When we import content into our courses, we're not always, completely aware of, how accessible that content is, or, how, when your instructional designers put their eyes on it, they probably have a clearer point of view on that score. We're all kind of, slaves to the platforms that we use in a way. Doesn't mean that, in the spirit of continuous improvement, doesn't mean that there aren't things that we can do to improve upon, what we have. So SUNY was using Blackboard Ultra. Oh, no, sorry, original, the classic. We were moving toward Ultra, and then then the contract ran out, and we, by committee, everything in SUNY is done by committee, similar to CCRI. We decided to migrate to a new platform, Brightspace.
Was that, Rob, was that a lot of work to make that migration?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Migrating several campuses and a lot of faculty. Currently, I'm engaged on a daily basis with training faculty in the new learning management system. I usually call it, I use a metaphor. It's like cooking Thanksgiving dinner in someone else's kitchen. It's like all the tools are there. Everything's there that you need to do it. It's just a certain amount of learning curve to finding everything you need and using it. And as adult learners ourselves, right? We tend not to click on things when we don't know what they're going to do. So we tend to be, let's say, less experimental than younger folks when it comes to just trying things out. So just to put a cap on that, it's actually going very smoothly. Our help desk is we have several pilots up and running. We're migrating 30 campuses in our first phase, and our help desk is reporting that we have very few questions from students and faculty, and really that is is probably the best indicator of a very sort of user-friendly learning management system, when students and faculty can migrate to it without too many questions.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to include, Rob, too, and Tim, is that the Academic Technology Committee is putting together a request for information and then a request for proposal to learning management systems. So there is a process in place right now to explore what else is out there, take a look at some of the other LMSs, and to see if Blackboard still makes sense for us or if we need to migrate to another LMS. So that's in the progress right now. We're probably not going to see any changes until after the Nietzsche visit in 2024-25, but we are actively working on it. So when the time comes, we'll just send out those proposals, get some of the LMS people in here so we can start looking at what else is out there.
Yeah, and Kristen put in the chat, something about Canvas. And it is, a couple of faculty who have used Canvas in SUNY have said that Brightspace looks a lot like Canvas on the end user, on the instructor side of things. I did a demo on Canvas a long time ago. I truly don't remember it as well as I should, but so I have that sort of anecdotal information on Brightspace. But again, in regard to Oscar, the standards are the standards. I think it can be applied to any classroom. One of our largest suppliers of online courses and online programs is Empire State College. Some of you may have heard of that, which is aimed directly at working adults, and they used Moodle. So SUNY was not exclusively on Blackboard. So it was our main LMS, but there were what we call rogue campuses that sort of went their own way with their own LMSs. So Empire State College implemented Oscar in Moodle as well. And as we dig in a little bit, and let me show you what the rubric looks like here. First of all, on the website, this is oscar.suny.edu. Okay, and we developed this website. The website is extremely helpful in understanding Oscar, but in you can get the rubric with Oscar, but you can access each and every standard as well. Thank you, Michelle, for putting it in the chat. So there's an about link. It shows us everything about how the Oscar process, as we initially envisioned it, was going to run, whereby we would refresh our courses, we would then teach our courses, we would then look for any kind of continuous improvement, and we constantly apply the rubric, as we go through. It is not the Oscar process, as we call it here, was never ever intended for 50 standards and checking off each and every standard and making sure that every course meets the requirements of each standard. That was never ever the intention. And as you're implementing it at CCRI, I think you're right on track with discussing a standard every week. We've had campuses do that too, having sort of brown bag presentation type things, where at the very while the video that we saw talks about Oscar as a systematic instrument of continuous improvement, we've had lots of campuses use it as an informal instrument for conversations around online pedagogy. And we're very happy for it to be used in that way as well. And I think just getting everybody in the mindset of any new mandates that come down. There was the video also mentioned regular and substantive interaction, which is now a federal mandate for online courses, whereby interaction between the instructor and students must be predictable, initiated by the instructor, and occur at regular intervals in an online course. Those kinds of things we are trying. Every time we improve Oscar, we take into account new federal mandates. So we're at Oscar 4.0 at this point. And we're trying to make sure that, again, as an instrument, that, hopefully when accrediting bodies, look at a campus's efforts for continuous improvement and for online course and program quality, that Oscar will be at the top of the list in terms of being something that they would approve. So in other words, if I know Nishi is yours, if at one point in time, it would be great if Nishi accepted that, regular Oscar reviews of courses within a particular program would satisfy their requirements for continuous improvement efforts, and maybe even professional development efforts. Because we want OSCQR to be as salient and as current as possible. So let's take a quick look. In oscar.suny.edu, we only have an hour, so I don't want to go through the entire website here, but we have the About OSCQR, which we kind of saw with the video. We also have all of the standards for listed out, and when I mentioned why do OSCQR, I mentioned the website as an example of why to use OSCQR, because the website is a great companion to the instrument in terms of providing extended annotations. One thing that we came up against when we were creating it is understanding that trying to get a nice concise statement of a best practice does not communicate, and wordsmithing it over and over again, but does not always hit the mark in terms of being a clear explanation for every single user out there. So what we have for each and every standard, and here they are broken up by category, but you can see that all 50 standards are represented here. What we have for each and every standard is again, annotations, so a more lengthy explanation of the actual standard, why it's important, and some citations. So depending on the standard, this one has one citation here. But how it supports the new regulation, regular and substantive interaction, many of the standards do. And then more importantly, and this is what I kind of want to get to, when I reached the level of frustration with the original instrument that we were using, it was a vendor provided instrument. And it costs a lot of money for us and for our campuses. What I really wanted to see, and by the way, I trained that instrument for 5 years, so I was very, aware of how great it was, but some of the drawbacks as well. What it didn't have was, more proactive advice as to, okay, so if I identify an issue in a course or in my course, I am putting my best foot forward. I need some ideas for improving things. So we wanted OSCQR mainly to be very forward thinking. And so that's for each and every standard on the website. It will provide you with ideas for meeting the standard, some examples of, some content that does meet the standard, or approaches that will help us meet the standard. And so here, this is about an overview of the course, a bulleted list of just quality points, if you will. And exploring more ideas from different resources outside of SUNY, from the sort of wide world of online teaching. And so we also encourage you to share what you know. If you have something to contribute, there is a form to contribute at the bottom of each and every standard for you to contribute your ideas as well. This little graphic here on standards will inform us that it reaches, this addresses the regular and substantive interaction requirement. And for each standard, we have a video of practitioners, instructors, instructional designers inside and outside of SUNY talking about each and every standard. And just their perspectives on it. And so I think the website does a great job of supporting the rubric, if you will. And on this Get OSCQR link, this is basically the 3 different types of well, for us, 2 different types of rubric. There is the PDF, Okay, they call that the self-assessment rubric. That will bring us to the Online Learning Consortium. We now share this rubric with the Online Learning Consortium. And the PDF looks like this. I downloaded one. And if I zoom in a little bit, I can just show you the little RSI, regular and substantive interaction logo is on the left here. And, all 50 standards are represented here. And I would like to, just again, in terms of, design, and since, I do want to explain a little bit the rationale of some of this. We didn't want, for each and every standard that we finally came up with. It took us a long time. Originally, the first version of OSCQR had 76 standards, and there were no accessibility standards. They were all about pedagogy. But OSCQR 4.0, we kind of honed it down to 50 standards. And for each and every one, it is not about focusing on what's wrong with the course. It is really focusing on the action plan. What would the improvement look like? Okay, so there's no need to, expound upon what the problems are. Just what are the solutions? Okay, and what is the nature of this solution? That's what these different levels are. Is this solution going to be a half hour or less? Is it going to be half to 2 hours? That would be considered a moderate revision. A major revision would be 2+ hours. This was designed and developed mainly for resource allocation. So as you go through it, and or if somebody else goes through your course, really just understanding, getting a ballpark figure, an estimate of how many hours are we looking at, and if necessary, does the campus need to encumber, another instructional designer, or how long is this going to? This helps us plan. Okay, maybe I'll get half of the revision work done in a particular semester. Maybe I'll prioritize a few standards, focus on those, and revise just those standards for this semester. Okay, essentially that was the rationale. It's an estimated time needed for revision. Other course review rubrics score your course, and at the end provide a score. And while there are lots of administrators that like those scores, faculty in SUNY definitely did not like the scores. Okay, so scoring a course, we sort of came to the conclusion that scoring a course was not a productive exercise, nor did it contribute to any kind of collegial collaboration. Scoring a course, it doesn't make sense either when you consider that there are all different kinds of courses out there. That a chemistry course with a lab component is going to look a lot different than sociology 101. So understanding that, when we look at some of these standards, sufficiently present is also part of the way to gauge whether a standard is present. Also not applicable. For like, we've had lots of lab courses, just 1 credit lab courses, or freshman seminar courses. They don't necessarily need to meet every single standard. There are also hybrid courses whereby only some of the content is online. So this not applicable column is really important for a lot of instructors. So this is the PDF version of the rubric here. And just so you know, they call this the self-assessment rubric. So it's designed to, sort of download on your own and, sort of run through. This is the most popular use of the rubric that we're aware of. What we do have is data on how often and how many rubrics have been accessed. But after that, the rubric is a private document for anyone who downloads it. So it's not as if we can there is any other eyes on any of the rubrics that you may download. So again, you see that RSI is important here with overview and information. Not so, I wouldn't say unimportant, but just not so present here in terms of course technology and tools. But again, that with that little RSI logo here, content and activities, a little bit, but then we get into interaction, and RSI is very sort of present here, as well as I think feedback, yeah, assessment and feedback as well. So this is the PDF version, and again, it's made for you to download. It's completely private. It is not collaborative at all. It's really, that's why we call it the self-assessment rubric.
Rob, can I just jump in really quickly?
Yeah, please do.
So everyone is seeing a different rubric. We created a simplified rubric. We used all the same wording that Oscar has. We just put it in a different format because we have to collect the data for Nietzsche. Most of you, or all of you, should know that we promised Nietzsche back in 2019 that we would have some type of an assessment, and we just fell behind. COVID, really disrupted everything. So we're sort of under the gun because now we're going to our self-study. And so we need to have data, and we need to have data fast. So Mish actually did a great job of creating the rubric that is available to all of us here at CCRI. It's a different look, but it is exactly the same wording and the same processes that you're seeing here. So this might seem very different to you, which it is. It's not the rubric that we created. We just tried to simplify it and make it really something that we can just kind of quickly do and collect some data so we can start writing a narrative.
And that's great. That's great, because that kind of report is so useful for for program review from accrediting bodies, because you can gather a lot of data. And what you want to follow that up with, because we have a campus, by the way, in SUNY. Again, I mentioned that implementation has been different across the board. Some campuses, one standard a week, just discussion, that's it. And then we have something like Herkimer Community College that is doing something very similar to what Chris is describing at CCRI, which is they've mandated reviews of all online courses every 3 years. And and more importantly, they collect all of the data and they roll it up into a report for middle stage, which is our accrediting body. And included in that report and included in the activity of course reviews is also all the follow-up. Okay, so that follow-up is also included in the report. So if things are identified as can be improved, what they do is they close the loop on these things too. So if you're implementing OSCQR now, you might get a knock on your door, so to speak, from an instructional designer to look at some of these things and maybe correct a few of them. What I know about middle states and about the middle stage reviews is that they want to see momentum. They don't want to see every box on the OSCQR rubric checked off for every single course. That's not what they want to see. They want to see continuous improvement. They want to see, and they want data. You can't just say it. You have to actually prove it. And what Herkimer Community College has done is, again, very much like you guys are doing. They are recording also the follow-ups to improvements that are being made. And the OSCQR rubric, in Google, I know you guys are, you're using your own platform right now, again, for, the short term, but there's also something called, you saw it mentioned in the video, called a dashboard. And that can be very helpful, once you get past this sort of first phase of using OSCQR in the first 13 standards or the 13 standards that you've identified, which again, I think is a great practice. It is in the spirit of OSCQR to, focus on the ones that you think are going to be salient right away. It really is about the follow-up and creating, a real spirit of continuous improvement that is not just one semester, is not just 1 year, but keeps on, cycling, if you will. And that's what the accrediting bodies are looking for. Are people having discussions about improving instruction? And when they are, and you are, I think it puts you in good standing with the accrediting bodies. Nishi, is that how you pronounce it, Chris? Nishi?
We either call it Nietzsche or Nechi. So we're still
Gotcha.
not sure which one it is.
Okay. But we're running out of time, and so it doesn't. I just want to again, answer any questions that you might have on OSCQR. Again, it's been well received, as the video kind of mentions. It's won awards and stuff like that. But essentially, it was built for public institution, by a public institution. And so I'm so happy that, to be able to share it with your institution, CCRI. But any questions that, you guys might have? Anything you want explained? I encourage you to check out oscar.suny.edu. Oh, and Michelle's putting, if you want to request a course review, just something about course reviews, if you get to the point where you do collaborative reviews, which are really, really interesting to do, reading someone else's course and being invited into that process is, really eye-opening. So it's really eye-opening when someone reads your course and has some perspectives on, what you've created. But when you read someone else's course, it can really, enrich our knowledge base around online teaching. And because a lot of times you just sort of say, he or she, is taking that approach. Never thought of that. It can be a really great experience. And again, it's really based on perspective. And if you do get to the point of collaborative reviews, don't think that you have to be inside your content area to do it. We've seen a lot of value in going across disciplines and reading a course that you are not a subject matter expert in. Because the main activity in reviewing a course is trying to look at it through the eyes of a student, and those green eyes are much easier to sort of embody when we know nothing about the content. So if someone in the English department can read a physics course, it can be it can generate a lot of useful perspective. Okay, I'm just reading the chat. Other things too, if you do find yourself in that position, one thing here is ego. We'd like to, sometimes think of ourselves as, we're collegial, and, criticism is sort of part of the game. But, when I train faculty how to review other people's courses, I spend a lot of time on the vulnerability factor. Okay, when you put your course up for review, you put yourself in a vulnerable position. And what I'm hoping is that, you know, for the reviewers who look at your content, that they understand that you are in that vulnerable position, and that you know, we all have, you know, especially when we're putting our best foot forward, you know, we all have feelings about our content, and we all have passion about our content. So if you do find yourself in a reviewer position, you know, please, you know, just be aware of that. And again, hopefully the rubric will, you know, sort of promote, you know, not necessarily critical language, but forward thinking solutions. Okay, I'm almost out of time. I know
Yeah.
many of you are teaching today. So I want to thank you for listening to me for the past 50 minutes or so. And I wish you luck in your course improvement efforts.
Thanks, Rob, very much for your time here.
Sure.
This session is going to be recorded. Mish also records her sessions that she has every week. Every week is devoted to a standard, one of the 13. So those are recorded. They're posted up on our website. So if you ever need a refresher, need to go over something, we have all that available for you as well. Rob, thanks very much for coming. I know you guys are busy too, so we
Thank
really
you, Chris.
appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, everybody, take care.